How's it hanging, folks? Today I did something interesting. I went on the game Dino Island, something I'd done before on the channel, and tried to make a super predator, thus showing I have learned absolutely nothing from 2 books and 2 entire movie trilogies. So, here's how it went. The first step to creating my mad science monstrosity was selecting the perfect island for my evil lair. Naturally, I went with the sinister Santa Pelica, as it looks like it has a large volcano. I know Iguanoa actually does have a volcano, but that one looks more tropical paradise than Evil Lair. Then it was time to start doing some of the initial setup. Now Dino Island starts you off with a fair amount of seed money. So what I needed to do was grab a couple of species and set up a few businesses to get things going first. For my first 2 dinosaur species I gathered, I knew I needed a couple of things that I could use as bases for creating the ultimate predator. So naturally, I went with the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex, and its much smaller and equally fearsome counterpart, the Velociraptor. I then used almost all the rest of my starting money to construct a panoramic view, something with which I could observe my new dinosaurs and all my domain, and maybe even attract a few more visitors while I'm at it. Now, having spent all of the starting funds that the game gave me, I ran into the same problem that all mad scientists do one time or another: the problem of funding. Now, being an amusement park, this place is funded by guests, and guests just were not visiting. I did not understand why guests weren't visiting. I mean, there's freaking dinosaurs here. There's a panoramic view to ride. What's not to love? But they just weren't coming, so I had to speed up time and wait until I could get enough money for better attractions. While I was waiting, I got to work in the laboratory, creating the first of the hybrid dinosaurs. Now, the game doesn't give you a whole lot of options when it's just single dinosaurs being hybridized. In fact, you can only really customize the courage, aggressiveness, and stamina. I worked out what was optimum for each of those and then looked at the cost to see what exactly number of money I have to wait for before I can start making hybrids. But then, after a little while longer of waiting, I accumulated enough money that I could create this hybrid dinosaur. I hadn't the money to start feeding a new dinosaur just yet, so I stuck him in cold storage for a while. After another period of waiting, I finally accumulated enough money for a new attraction that would hopefully increase my park's income and visitor count. I went with the roundabout to cater to the pensioner demographic. Boldly, but perhaps unwisely, my next step after constructing a roundabout and saving up enough money for a new purchase was to get yet another dinosaur. I went with the Pachycephalosaurus, because its high aggression and decent shell allow it greater combat prowess than certain others, and I wanted that in my super predator. Once again, stricken with the desire for a new dinosaur and new traits, I decided to construct another enclosure and purchase yet another new dinosaur. This time I went with the Troodon, whose high intellect would allow me to create a smarter, more competent predator. Then, seeing the slow rate at which I was accumulating money, I knew I needed a greater source of income. So I set to work building more restaurants and more attractions to lure in more guests and get me money faster. Soon I had a veritable city of attractions and gift shops and restaurants, places where the guests could lounge around and have fun. Once my income had been secured, it was time to get back to the main focus of this: creating the perfect predator. So I decided I would hybridize my 2 newest dinosaurs, the Pachycephalosaurus and the Troodon. The result of this was a halfway intelligent, decent animal with fair amount of aggression. But unfortunately it was an herbivore, a far cry from a super predator. However, despite being an herbivore, I would still be able to use these genes in a later creature to create a better carnivore. With my newfound money, I was also able to make a couple of park expansions, creating 2 new enclosures, so I can put my hybrids out into the field and use them to create better hybrids in the future. Unsatisfied as I was with my Pachycephalosaurus Troodon hybrid, I decided to see what would happen if I hybridized it again with a Troodon, hoping I could add some more of that Troodon intelligence. Messing around with the genes, I was able to play with the stats and create a much more intelligent creature. The result looked almost exactly like a normal Troodon, but with one intelligence point higher. I have dubbed this new creature the Smart Boy. While the Smart Boy may have had all the intelligence points it could have, I was still unsatisfied with its other traits. So I tried breeding the Troodon with the Indominus, my Tyrannosaurus Velociraptor hybrid, to see if I could make it more intelligent. At least that was the plan at first. Halfway through making this one, I decided to instead prioritize its combat trait, hoping that by creating a high combat strength creature, I could then hybridize it with the Smart Boy to have the best of both worlds. I dubbed this creature the Bruiser. I decided to release the Smart Boy into my park so I could start using him to make hybrids. I decided to try making another hybrid Pachycephalosaurus Troodon, this time using the Smart Boy instead of the base Troodon, in hopes that I could make it even more intelligent than it was before. The result had generally better stats than the first attempt, but not by much, and was still an herbivore. After toying around with that for a bit, I looked at the stats of all of my creatures and realized they all shared one key weakness. They were all really freaking slow. And I thought maybe the Velociraptor genes in them could balance it out, but that didn't seem to be working. So I looked at the dinosaur list again to see what could be faster. And I found the Pelicanimemus, the fastest dinosaur in the game. And I bought one of them, hoping to increase the speed of my killers. I put those quick genes to work in the laboratory, hybridizing him with Bruiser, hoping to create a much faster form of the killer. However, it was unfortunately an herbivore, and I could not change this. So I put it in the cooler, again hoping those quick genes could be put to use later on. I wasted no time hatching my newly created fast creature into the park and hybridizing it with the Indominus to create a new super being. The result was impressive. It was fast, it was intelligent, it was aggressive, it could take a hit, it could deliver a hit. It was everything I could have wanted, except that it was small. This creature was only a size class 1, and I needed to make it bigger if I was to really call it a super predator. I hybridized it with a T-Rex, hoping to increase its size, but that didn't really end up helping too much. All it got up to was size class 2. So I kept the egg and moved on with it. I knew if I wanted to grow really huge, I would need to get some new blood into this park. So I gathered the largest carnivore available, one of the largest land carnivores to ever exist. I bought myself a Giganotosaurus. But alas, it was not to be. Even the largest of carnivores hybridizing with this tiny creature couldn't get above size class 2. I had to just accept that and move on. I decided to hatch one of the creatures I had made. Naming it Brawl, I moved on with the experiment and hybridized it with a Giganotosaurus, hoping to further increase its size. The result was indeed a larger creature, size class 3, that I dubbed Buster. It was bigger and stronger than Brawl, but slower. I once again needed that speed, so I immediately hybridized it with Speedy to create a lighter, faster model named Dave. Then, looking once again to get the best of both worlds, I took Dave and combined him with the Giganotosaurus, and finally got the size I was looking for. This creature was huge and powerful. I dubbed it the Mega Killer, as it was the largest creature I had yet to make. However, as grand as the Mega Killer was, he still lacked one trait that I wanted him to have, that's not shared by any of the carnivores in the game: the trait of Shell. I wanted him to have defensive power. He needed to be able to take a hit just as well as he can give one. And for that, I needed another new dinosaur. I needed the Ankylosaurus. After buying the Ankylosaurus, I set to work again in the lab, this time making a hybrid of the Ankylosaurus and Buster. Not really for any purpose, just because working with a hybrid gives you more freedom than working with the pure dinosaurs. I then hybridized the new creature again with Buster to create a more powerful creature with a greater shell. The result was the War Beast, a size class 3 creature, slightly smaller than the Mega Killer at size class 4, but just as powerful, perhaps even more powerful. And then I used the War Beast and my creature from earlier, my small yet mighty animal, to combine them together and create Assassin, larger than one of its components and smaller than the other, yet ferocious, intelligent, capable of combat, powerful. At this point, I had achieved the genetic engineering skill reserved only for gods. And so I decided it was time to create my masterpiece, my masterstroke, the most powerful creature we can create. I took the best parts of both the Mega Killer and the Assassin and put them together to create my wonderful masterpiece, my monster, my warrior, the Death Fang. And so, birthed from the icy womb of cold hard science, my monstrosity appeared in the park, ready to kill any visitor who came just a little too close to the bars of its cage. But now, what do I do? Now that I've created this great monstrosity, this terrible creature, what do I do with it? Do I just let it sit there as people gawk at it from that tower? No. I needed to test my creations, test them against the hardest challenge I could, each other. So I set up a combat course for them, put 4 of them in there, my greatest creations, the Mega Killer, the War Beast, the Assassin, and the Death Fang, to let them fight it out and see what is my superior creation. The fight itself turned out somewhat lackluster. At the start of it, the assassin came rushing into the center, only to be killed by the Mega Killer. However, by moving into the center itself, the Mega Killer left itself vulnerable, and from a team up assault from the War Beast and Death Fang, it couldn't stand up long. Ultimately, there were 2 left standing when the bell sounded, both the War Beast and the Death Fang. However, I think we all know that had the time gone on, the Death Fang would have come out on top. And with that outcome to the battle, I was secure in the knowledge that I had created incredible monsters, living weapons, the greatest predators the world had ever seen. So, yeah, that's all I have for you today. Hope that was at least mildly entertaining, and I'll be back soon with something else. Till then, see ya.